I'm reading from Matthew 8, verse 20. Jesus said to him, "Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." If you, it really does take a whole lot of bravery to walk with the true Jesus Christ. Because Jesus did not come to lead you into the world, he came to pull you out of it. As a matter of fact, every time, going back, Abraham was called to go out. God did not call him to stay, he called him to go out. And going on the outside means going on the, if need be, going living outside of society, is that you are going to be less integrated in the cult called mankind or the masses. This guy wrote a thing decades ago, not decades, but years ago anyway. But he spoke about this thing called the mastermind. And societies and countries and nations and belief systems all have a mastermind by which everyone else melds into it. They melve into the mastermind. They're a smaller version of the bigger mind, right? And that's what causes the masses and people and governments to be able to control the masses, because they do it through the means and the sake of the mastermind. They can help you to stay in comfort and in swaddle you in the baby clothing and speak nice things to you and make you feel very safe. Okay? But the thing is that the masses will never ever be safe. They will pay into a system that teaches them that they're fine just as long as they pay into it. When Jesus Christ said the foxes have holes and he says, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Literally, Jesus was one of the first, and not because of just say the name Jesus, the Son of God, the one who always was before mankind even ever was. Okay? When he came down in the flesh, he not only modeled, he was going to walk through mankind in the midst, doing the will of God, proclaim the kingdom of God, but he was never ever going to be part of it. He was never ever going to be part of the mankind he was doing his Father's will to. He always went out into the wilderness. He slept outside. He slept in the wilderness. It was probably a rarity he found himself in people's homes. Jesus was one of the first, beside Abraham, some of the other people in the Old Testament, vagabonds. That's what the world would call them, bums. And he was very rich. He lived out what we are supposed to live. He walked on water. He could basically have dinner served to him at a second's notice. He was fed by nature. And that is the will of God. When it comes down to it, that is truly the life and life in abundance, walking with God. And it takes a whole lot of bravery. You can be in the world and not of it. And sure, people say, yeah, well, he puts us in different situations and places to be a minister unto him. But it is a really hard thing, because you will find, whether you like it or not, you will find yourself becoming attached to wherever you are. It's a rarity. That's why people say the temptations, they use the word temptations or the enemy or whatever. The wicked one will always have an easier time to attack a Christian, a child of God, when they're inside of his world. than if they're operating in the outside. And like I said, getting back to it being bravery, this is the will of God. And I really do believe it, that if you ever feel challenged, that God is telling you to leave the masses and go on the outside, go on the outskirts, that is the only place you're really going to experience God in the biggest way. And it will become all natural. It will become natural, where other people will struggle with that thing called faith, because you will learn to live by faith. See, that is what makes the child of God more powerful and more effective. That every time he came into the midst of mankind, he always came in with the power of God. He did what he did. And instead of every time he left, he was leaving them is because they tired him out. They tired him out. And so many times they couldn't even handle the fact that whatever was coming from him was upsetting to them, that they wanted to kill him. They wanted to do harm to him. And he said he walked right through them. Jesus Christ, his message through his very life will teach you this. Don't get attached to this earthly body, what it demands and what it wants. Don't get attached to the masses and what you think is the glittering lights of mankind and the goings and the comings. And I've had to learn this, and I still have to learn it. The Christian world today, and I use that word lightly. I shouldn't even use the word Christ. The religious world will never ever teach you this kind of stuff, because you lose their money, which you can only get in the world. They will lose their buildings. They don't teach you about living in the outside. They teach you about being part of the world, okay? Yet call yourself a Christian. As long as you go to church every Sunday, as long as you do the religious thing, and for some people they'll get it right, as long as you bear a character of decency, of morality, and of purity, you're going to be a light and a salt in the world. And yes, that is good. But you have to maintain one thing. This world is not where you belong. You are being called to be a pilgrim, a temporary resident in something that is passing away. Because you're just passing, whilst it is passing away, you're passing through. And this is not your home. Have you ever heard of other quote unquote believers talking that they're all yammering about the rapture and everything else, or rapture, right? Yeah, these people they got a lot of their feet in their possessions of this world. And Jesus said, he didn't just say it for mincing words. This is how we lived. This is how we want to live the Jesus life, to live the Son of God and the daughter of God life. He said, what's the profit man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul? He says, life does not consist in the abundance of the things which you possess. He says your eyes is a lamp to your, the eyes is a lamp to your body. And he says, a lamp of your body. And he says that wherever it's going, whatever it's looking at, it will either be filled with light or filled with darkness. The very world, and I'm not talking about the natural world. I'm talking about the stuff, the mankind, where he exists, and all the things that he's made and done to titillate the human emotion. It has a way of bringing its subliminal messages into your life to cut God's supply from you. So you find yourself becoming more dependent, and you'll be amazed how many commercials and advertisements are intended to keep you hooked to something that you really don't need. But it gets you going, hypnotized into something that you think that you really need when you really don't. Most people have discovered later on in their life that the majority of things they went after were basically zilch. It wasn't worth it. So I'll just leave you with that really to live the Jesus life is having it in the back of your mind that you, if need be, if you really want to experience God and you ask him for it, is go live on the outside, because that's where Jesus lived. And if we ought to walk as Jesus walked, I'm pretty sure he's called us to also be like him. That we're going to be just like, as the world would call us, vagabonds, travelers, going through. And you know what? To have no ties to anything that ties you down gives you absolute freedom. To see God literally provide for you, to see God literally instruct you, because you're not attuned to the noise of man's confusion and dilemma. You're able to quickly hear God, and you're able to experience great and marvelous things that you would not have experienced otherwise. So you have a good day, like and subscribe, and my message is just along that avenue. Jesus had nowhere to lay his head. It means that he did not find his resting place in amongst the human race. He didn't find it there. And when he went out into the wild, that's where he lived most of the time. Okay? He didn't have a resting place the way human beings do. So don't ever get so comfortable and too rested. Okay? Because you know what? Mankind in general is looking for their end rest when they lay their head down in a coffin. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about that, because you know what? You have a resting place in God, not in amongst mankind, and you're not talking, living, or being of their language. You're living God's language. Have a good day. Thank you.